Hello and welcome to Quality of Life Radio, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Quality of Life show. Every third Wednesday, we get to chat with Dr. Jackie Eubany. It's Dr. Jacqueline Eubany. We call her Dr. Jackie. She joins us to talk about heart health. She is a board-certified cardiologist. She's an electrophysiologist, my favorite word. And she's the author of the best-selling book, Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story. I encourage you to go to her website, womenandheartdiseasebook.com. You can get it on Amazon as well. And that's important to talk about because today we're going to talk about heart health around the world. September 29th, 2022 is World Heart Day. And there's a huge initiative to cut back on, I'm going to say heart disease. Really, there's this the World Heart Federation got together with a bunch of other doctors and around the world and saying we need to cut non-communicable diseases. I think I'm saying this right. Gosh, Dr. Jackie, this is like a language test every time you come on. We're going to cut it by 25% by 2025. So we got 3 years to get this straight. So welcome back, Dr. Jackie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on with you guys.
Hey, it is always good. And I'm always, learning some stumbling new word, which is non-communicable diseases. So that means we're not talking COVID or anything that is transferable. Yeah,
exactly. Non-infectious diseases. Absolutely.
Okay, so what I learned from this, this is kind of crazy though. I know you've been on our show for a number of years talking about the United States and women's heart disease, especially being the number one killer of women in the United States, heart disease, which we still keep going. I thought it was cancer,
Mm-hmm.
But then with this World Heart Disease. The World Heart Day, I learned that heart disease is the number one killer. Heart disease and stroke is the leading cause of death, non-communicable diseases, right? Only.
Right.
Number one cause of death in the world. So 18.6 million people die a year from this. I had no idea. I thought cancer was at the top. I really did.
Yeah, heart disease remains the number one killer. And we always talk about it on this channel in terms of women because the myth was always that heart disease was a male disease. So we are highlighting it in women because we see that, women are also at risk, and it's also the number one cause of death in women. But truth be told, it's the number one cause all across the world of non-communicable deaths, diseases. So it's a very important thing.
And is this, and women, it's also especially important because I know, especially going from our very first conversation in your book, Women and Heart Disease, the real story is a lot of times we don't recognize that women are having a heart attack. So that's another big part of it that it maybe is not talked about as much because we don't realize that, mom is having a heart attack or aunt or sister, cousin, she's having a heart attack because we're not doing Fred Sanford.
Exactly.
Because most of the because we've always thought of heart disease as a male disorder, and most of the studies looking at heart disease, the way it presents and the treatment really were focused on men. And now we've found over the years that women may not present with the same typical symptoms of heart attack that we're used to acknowledging as heart attacks, like the chest pressure and like the Fred Sanford that you mentioned, with people putting their hands across their hearts in a gesture of pressure or pain. So now we're starting to recognize that women may not present exactly the same way as men, and we're just trying to educate women and spread the word so that the amounts of deaths so we can lower the number of deaths from heart disease in the community.
But it's in a way, when you read what causes heart disease, I'm sure there can be people who inherit it or inherit the weakness towards that. Like if your whole family has had heart disease, that maybe now you're going to inherit that weakness in your genes. I understand that there's that. Is that, I mean,
yeah, there is a component of genetic to heart disease. But you can even if you have a strong family history of it, you can do things to mitigate your personal risk of having heart disease. So we say, just because your family members have it doesn't mean that you should just throw all caution to the wind and say, well, I don't have to do all these things because I'm going to get it anyway. You can do these lifestyle changes and can decrease your risk a little bit compared to your family members for heart disease.
So in a way, sometimes when I read the things that cause it, it's almost like we're giving it to ourselves by how we run our personal lives. It's like our diet, and we're not, some of us aren't exercising, or we're eating the wrong foods, maybe. And I think there's a lot of stress. I don't know how much stress factors into it, but when you look at Fred Sanford going, it's the big one, I'm coming, because he's stressed out about something that happens on his show. I mean, it's silly, it's comedy, but still, that idea is like the ultimate stress. So I'm going,
Right.
So, but how much does stress play into it?
So stress can, if you are predisposed to, heart disease or heart attack, we say that stress can be like the final thing that causes it to happen. Because, during periods of stress, your adrenaline or hormone levels are high, and that can trigger something that was already there, that it was probably going to happen, but maybe it wasn't going to happen at that moment. But it was something that may have been on its way, coming years down the line, but stress can just trigger it. So usually you see that in people who have who are already at risk for heart disease.
What about, we talk about blood pressure, and I wonder about that with blood pressure and diabetes. Like if your family's had diabetes, a lot of times that will pass down from generation to generation. So now if there's diabetes, you need to know heart disease is, looming. So you can reverse that. But high blood pressure, is that something, I mean, when we think about heart disease around the world, and you're a world traveler, how many countries now? I know you've been like everywhere, like seriously.
I know, it's up
just
there.
got
I'm
back
not
from
sure.
Italy.
50.
She went to Italy. We're just a little jealous.
Yes, it was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Trying out the Mediterranean diet, so that was wonderful. But so you can have these things like diabetes, hypertension that are hereditary, but it's definitely not a life sentence or a death sentence for you because it's in your family. You can definitely do things to decrease your risk. You should, if you have a family history of hypertension and you do have hypertension, you should make sure you're seeing your doctor. You should make sure you're living a healthy lifestyle. You should take the medications that you're prescribed. You should check your blood pressure. So all these things can lower your risk of, having heart disease later on in life.
When you look at this as a global, can I say it's an epidemic with that many people dying, or what? When do you say like panic mode? Like, I mean, we don't want to panic when we're talking about heart disease.
No,
but
we don't want to panic.
I mean, that's
I wouldn't call it an epidemic.
But you know what I mean?
No.
I'm like, this is a big number, 18.6 million people a year. And it being number one, I'm just like, I just didn't realize. But when you think about, the different cultures around the world and the lifestyles being so different, and, we were talking about stress, and the first thing that I thought about was how many people right now are fleeing situations like wars, like if you're in Ukraine, getting out. There are people, refugees, I mean, like, it's got, we've just done so many interviews lately of, people being refugees from like through Africa and and I just go like, how is that, like, if you are like knowing heart disease is looming, or you have it, and then that stress of your whole world flipping upside down, how do they manage this not having a heart attack? Because to me, that has got to be the ultimate stress. You know, in this country, our stress is, oh, I didn't get to this meeting, and this, I'm going to make more money if I do this, and I need a second car, and oh, let's just go through the fast food. I'm just like, la, 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 la. That's how we are.
Or now I have to pay for the second car.
Yeah, exactly. Or the third, and I got to do this, and oh, get the kids from here, and la, la, and it's like, okay, everybody slow the hell down. But this,
so right,
this
in a lot of
real
these
stress.
countries,
Yeah,
a lot of these countries, you know, we know that cardiovascular disease occurs in higher numbers in low to middle income countries. So when you have in these countries, access to healthcare is definitely a big issue. You know, not everyone has access to healthcare. Not everyone has the means to pay for medication. Not everyone has the means to, you know, go see the doctor and those kinds of things. And this is why we end up seeing higher rates of cardiovascular mortality in these communities.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times when you travel to different countries, because everything is so different, you get the feeling that everybody's happy and healthy and having way more fun than we are over here. You know what I mean? In a way. And so, you know, like if you say that people in Africa or people in Europe have a heart attack, then you would say, yeah, Europe, I can understand it. But Africa, why would people in Africa have a heart attack? You know, because they're not stressed out. Because I think we always think stress more than we want to think about diet or exercise.
Right. So it would be a combination of all of those things. Of course, they have stress as well. They probably, you know, especially in the lower income areas, there's always the stress of you know of your daily living, trying to you know feed the family and those things that aren't considered stress in our communities. Those are not one of our major stresses, but they have their source of stresses as well. And they probably have, you know, they definitely have less access to care. Like we said, the risk factors of heart disease tend to be silent, like hypertension, diabetes. You don't know you have that until something catastrophic happens. So you don't get to go see a doctor when you don't have money to pay for even the transportation to get to the doctor's office. So you don't even know you have these things until something happens, and then you end up passing away from it. So in these low to mid income countries, access to care is a big issue. They definitely have their sources of stress, even if it's different from ours. You know, stress is stress. The body doesn't know what you're under stress, what your particular stressful situation is, but it responds the same way, no matter what the stress is. So this is why this continues to be an issue all over the world.
Wow. What about also now? I mean, we talk about the stress levels, but like the states and countries that have more money or more affluent, you know, it's interesting. We were talking to Glenn Burrows, and I know you've been on a show with him from Norfolk Tours. We were talking about this, you know, a few times. Like he goes, you know, you've got to think, we never used to eat meat. Maybe once, like on a Sunday meal, we would have meat, like the roast, and it would have to last the family for the rest of the week, kind of thing. And I don't know if I'd want it on the fifth day, but you know, it's about like now we tend to eat meat more frequently, and now we have factory farms to fulfill that need and also make the cost reduced down, which isn't necessarily good for our environment. And you know, then we started here, you know, we got away from organic farming because now we wanted more cheaper. And yet, when you think about countries that really do not have the money, a lot of people are growing their food, which is a lot of work. I know we're on a farm right now. I'm just saying, farming is not easy. Listen, I'm picking vegetables in between spiders and snakes,
but it's healthy,
all kinds of stuff. It's healthy and it feels good. By the way, I'm getting my exercise, and Dr. Jackie would be very happy. Getting a lot of exercise.
Yeah, you get a lot of exercises. Yeah, exactly.
Exercise,
a lot of exercise,
fresh air,
but going
and
back
chemicals.
But
no
going
chemicals
back to this
in your food.
Way of how we have created this culture of stress, money, is ruling, right? So now it's food being eat fast food. And even fast food in the beginning wasn't necessarily as toxic as it is now. And I think they're trying to change it because, the populace wants it to be changed. Even grocery stores and what we're getting in grocery stores, they're like, here, have cut vegetables that are clean and washed in a bag. Not necessarily that's the best, but it's a way to get people to eat things quicker, but it's so that they can have this fast-paced lifestyle. So I kind of feel like here is a country which we are fighting really hard to keep a middle class actually to be there, because that's going away too. It's like, here, you're either a high class or we don't have money at all.
Right.
So we're in a weird situation in this country, but we do live this hectic lifestyle.
Right.
And I think during COVID, people are slowing down and going, what is more important to me? So I'm hoping that will help with heart disease, that people understand, like, maybe we don't need that. Maybe we do grow a few things in the garden ourselves and enjoy that because it's a nurturing experience. But what we've done now with eating meat all the time, like it seems like we eat meat 3 times a day. Is that something that's going against us?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're just really highlighting our issues as a first world country with money and why we're seeing so much heart disease in our country. The more money the country has, people have access to, these foods that are unhealthy, and the pace of our lives are always fast. We want things quickly. We don't have time for organic food. So, yeah, all these things definitely contribute to heart disease in, first world countries. Even access of care sometimes. Not everybody in this, first world country has access to health care, which is kind of weird to say, but that's definitely also an issue that we're dealing with. But for sure, heart disease is high again in our countries because of all these things that you've mentioned.
And so then when you go to other countries, like you just were in Italy, right? And I know we've talked about the Mediterranean diet, and you're a supporter of that. And when you go to a place, you go to Europe, right? Are they healthier there because they have more of a walking lifestyle and maybe more fresh? I mean, I haven't been to Europe for years. We've been here for 25 years.
I know.
It's wild now. I've been in this country longer than I've been out, so it's a whole other world. But what's it like there? Just coming back from there. I know you're just in Italy. Are they healthier in regards to heart disease because of those kind of lifestyle habits and their diet?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I don't have data specifically to say one way or the other, but it would seem that they're healthier because they do a lot of physical activity. Some of their foods are healthier, but I know you've heard of the French paradox, though. Even though the French eat the most unhealthy things, they tend to have less high cholesterol, less high blood pressure, even though they eat creamy stuff, bread, and they smoke. But they tend to, have less heart disease than we do, which this is why we call it the French paradox. But in that case, I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's something genetic, but there's still a lot that we don't know. And we
it's
don't
because
understand.
they just decide at a certain time earlier than we do. Like we'll do let's work from 9 to 9 kind of crazy stuff. And the French are like, no, it's 2:00, time for wine.
I knew she was going there.
And a glass of wine, and then take the rest of the day off.
No. And I heard that French women were skinny because they drank leek soup for dinner and lunch, and they still had cheeses and everything, and drank a lot of red wine. So all of that cuts out the fat. Well, I tried that, Dr. Jackie, and I'm sorry it didn't happen.
It doesn't work for me either. Exactly.
Did you try it?
It did not work.
I just can't imagine eating that much bread and cheese and not weighing 450 pounds.
I can live on it.
I can't imagine.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine not being fat eating like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's my downfall. Cheese and wine and
wine and bread.
Really,
that's all they eat over there.
See, and that's weird because I don't like to eat bread at all. It's
and they do all the meat things over there too, like all the the stuff.
Yeah. So they're doing everything we're not supposed to, and they're healthy.
Yeah.
And then if we try it, then we get sick.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I think
there
it's
is
about
something
quality.
to that. Yeah. So there's something to that French paradox. It's potentially a genetic thing that they've been eating this way for so long that they've developed some kind of genetic the thing that allows them to adapt to this.
They're immune.
But it's hard to say. I don't. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Jackie, what about Asia? Because I've heard too, like there are certain places that is it the blue zone that we're talking? Is it blue plate or blue zones that people are living for years, like longer than everywhere else? I think one area in China was one of that. I mean, I was wondering about their food because we don't eat it because there's so much fish involved and we're allergic to fish, but is there a lot of salt in that food and because of the MSG and stuff, or is that just, fast food stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably from what they're eating. It's probably the healthier fish, and they're probably eating more organic things, and they're probably, doing more physical activity than we do. And all that's probably contributing to them living longer periods of time.
So tell us a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Nancy. Sorry.
I was going to say, I know this is going to sound strange, but maybe their air is cleaner because they're walking more and they don't need as many cars as what we do.
Not in China.
Yeah, well, not in China. I'm still thinking about France.
No, I'm like China. No, they've been wearing face masks before COVID.
Yes.
So
I know.
And I've been there before. Yeah, the air quality is not
really?
so good there. Yeah, but yeah.
Wow.
But mostly in the big cities. I don't know about the small little, countrysides, but I'll tell you the big cities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the countryside in any country is going to be better than the cities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the smog, I don't know, smog and just too many people and too much stress and.
Yeah, I think the stress thing is, because you end up, I think a lot of bad habits are created from stress. That's the problem. So if you're upset about something, maybe work, you're going to eat something that you didn't prepare
or drink
that's not fresh, and maybe you're going to drink more, right? And maybe skip that workout session. So, but at the same time, you also can't, guilt yourself if you're off routine. You need to just get back on it, because if you guilt yourself, then you're going to start it all over again. Yeah. So I think it's you have to be kind to yourself, and I think we've got to a place where we're actually not kind to ourselves. You know what I mean? It's like we need to give ourselves a break. I just feel that way, the way our lifestyle is.
I agree with you. Stress makes it very difficult to stay motivated and to stick to a particular lifestyle. When you're stressed out, comes with not sleeping well, and when you're not sleeping well, you're eating horribly, and it just makes it very difficult to stick to a healthy lifestyle and to take the medications that you're required to take. So this is why stress is an important factor in decreasing your risk for heart disease.
And hang out with your friends, have some laughter.
Yes.
I think laughter is. God, it's so good. You have to.
Good for the soul, absolutely.
You gotta have laughter, music, and wine. Oopsie.
Yeah, you need to listen to some music. Yeah. Maybe turn the news off. That would help.
Because Nancy and I were talking about it with all the different magazines, like heart health, and I was like, God, just getting back to hobbies, like reading, spending time with a book for an hour. Just those calm moments are just so crucial. And if we did more of that, I think our focus would improve too. And, we were just talking about bad air quality and everything. And I was thinking if people have, I get asthmatic if, I'm in a bad zone of air quality, and been really lucky to not have it just through lifestyle changes, not to have full-blown asthma because of diets. And you talk about cheese, it's not good for asthmatics. It's not, because it's mucus creating and all of that stuff, and we all want to talk about mucus, right? But anyway, I do. I'll talk about anything gross. But if so diet changes and all of that, but we have also through the way our foods are harvested and grown and We also, in water situations, our topsoil being really bad. And so like you could have, organic food as being, these giant crop, like we've done so many interviews with scientists on this kind of stuff too, about what's going on with our soil. And basically you could grow organic all you want. If you're going to do these big swaths of the same thing, if your soil sucks, it doesn't matter how organic you are anymore. The nutrition level's gone down. And so when we go back into this, thinking about how people are living, if all these immune diseases that are across this country and around the world, right? I thought, maybe when we were in South Africa and everything in Kenya, I was healthier as a kid, but now I'm finding a lot of my friends, a lot of people I know in different countries, this is a global thing. So I'm glad we're talking global, because we think it's so isolated, and it's not. And that means there's a shift that has to happen together. And if we have these immune diseases, can that affect our heart? Is that like kind of a part that is your body not strong enough? I mean, can it affect your heart? Just period. I mean, if you have MS or Crohn's disease or something like that. Yeah.
So the traditional ones are like lupus, systemic lupus. Yeah, absolutely. The autoimmune stuff can also affect the heart because they can affect the blood vessels, they can attack the heart muscle itself, and they can lead to heart disease.
Okay, so that's it, everybody. We need to grow our own vegetables, a variety of them. We need to make our own wine, brew our own beer. I don't know, we can import chocolate from, fair trade places. We need to, like, I think it's something, and I think we're getting better. I think we've got a lot of new business people too that are doing business in ethical ways. I think we're getting better. I do believe so.
Yeah.
But they're doing, things that are clean. I mean, we had a tea company, Nepal Tea. It's a collective, and they are all organic and supporting small farmers in Nepal. And your tea is like pure. It's clean. It's actually hard to get clean tea without stuff in it, chemicals. And it's amazing. It's good tea, man. It's really good for you. But I think we're getting more of those people doing stuff. So I feel like that's where the global thing has to come in. But I do want to go to what I know I know before COVID, you were going to Nigeria and doing work. And I remember we did recorded an interview, and you're like, I've been up since 4. I was Zooming to Nigeria. What do you do in Nigeria? In regards
well, I haven't been since COVID, but me and several colleagues and friends of mine would go there to administer heart health or care, cardiovascular care to them. So we would get the device companies or pharmaceutical companies here in the United States to donate things to us like pacemakers, defibrillators, and things that we need to do our cardiac procedures. And we would, we were in contact or in partnership with the university there who was able to get patients, indigent patients who couldn't pay for any of these things but were really sick and really needed these devices. So we would get them to select patients for us. And we would take the devices over there and we would spend a couple of days implanting devices, doing cardiac caths, and all those kinds of things. So so that was what we were doing, and it was definitely a good program, and
That's
but we're
cool.
gonna resume that. We just haven't yet with COVID. It's still still a lot of logistics that we have to plan out, but by next year I think we should be able to go back and continue that program.
And do you have any idea at this point, because I know it's early, of how COVID may or may not affect your heart?
It's still early, but we know, we know that COVID did, especially people who got very sick from COVID, did affect the heart. But in terms of long-term manifestations of heart disease as a result of a COVID infection, we still are waiting to find out.
Yeah, because it's early for that. Yeah,
it's still early.
It's too early.
That's
interesting. Yeah,
and I think that's something too when you talk about like the French paradox. We're looking at how COVID has changed. I mean, there's been all this neurology stuff that they're talking about how it's changed people's bodies and things. So
we're not
science.
We're not used to these things happening here.
No, but I'm saying
we're not. We're just.
I was making a point about science and how, like you were talking about the French paradox, how COVID could, have changed heart health and heart disease. So there's always something changing, and I just always want people to understand that science is always changing, right? And
yes,
people kind of
and it takes time.
Yes. Of course, to prove results, or you can have an idea that this causes that, but you have to prove it, and that takes time.
Yeah, that takes time.
It really does. At least it takes at least 2 years to run some kind of an experiment or test that will stand up. To whatever conclusions you come to. You can't just do it overnight and then, here it is. That's
exactly.
So people need to understand that science is valid because the time has been taken to be sure.
Yes.
If I could put it that way.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you wrote your book because apparently we still need this going around.
Yes. It's a very important topic. It's a very important topic.
Yeah, I'm really glad we talked about this. So everyone, September 29th is World Heart Day. And again, this is all through the World Heart Federation. So you might want to check it out and, do projects. They're doing things with kids and make a poster and all kinds of stuff. So have that conversation, maybe even use social media to good instead of arguments.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Let's just have a heart. September 29th is the date. And of course, we want to not just do this all in one day, right? We want this to be an awareness that goes everywhere because you got to think of your family, your friends, it's something important and to support them too. Like, you think about when you go out, we're all getting back out together in person and you go out to lunch or dinner and someone's like, oh, I got to be careful of my diet. Maybe not push them to have the chocolate cake if they know they shouldn't. We should be supportive. And if you want someone who should have that chocolate cake, I'm right here. I'll take it. But and then I'll go do some farm work or something. But I think I think one of the ways we can all work together is to work together in supporting each other, right? So I think that's like if you've got a walking group, walk together. If you're doing it alone, you could fall down quickly. So the more we have as group things, sometimes we stick to our goals better. So very cool. Everyone, Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story is by Dr. Jackie Eubany. You can go to her website, womenandheartdiseasebook.com, and also go to Amazon and get it. It is a bestseller because she kicks butt and she knows what she's doing, and that's why she's here. So glad you're here on the show, Dr. Jackie. And also, if you are in Orange County, California, you can go visit Dr. Jackie. So go to her other website, cvwellnessinstitute.com. Dr. Jackie is here every third Wednesday. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Jackie.
Thank you, and happy World Health Day.
Thank you.